Hello everyone and welcome to my channel Y&R Trends. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Nick Newman's agonizing screams echo through the dimly lit basement of the Bacall estate, the sound bouncing off cold concrete walls like the cries of a man unraveling. It's a sound no one in Genoa City will ever forget. A raw, guttural cry of horror and heartbreak that marks the beginning of the darkest chapter yet. Moments after Matt's lifeless body was discovered sprawled near the old furnace, Sienna Bacall, trembling, disheveled, and covered in dust, finally breaks. Her voice cracks as she whispers, "I can't hide it anymore. There are 5 things you all need to know." What follows is a confession so chilling that even Nick, the man who's seen his share of tragedy and betrayal, can barely process it. Nick, Noah, and even Victoria's preconceived notions about the Bacalls, the crash, and the web of deceit that brought them all to this breaking point will be completely redefined by the 5 secrets Sienna reveals after Matt's death. Before Sienna even realizes it, the first secret comes out. Her voice quivers, eyes darting toward Matt's lifeless form as she admits, "Matt wasn't who you think he was. Even his name was not Matt Clark." Nick's jaw tightens as the weight of her words sinks in. She explains that Matt Clark was just one of many identities the man used. A master manipulator who had been running from a past far darker than anyone in Genoa City could imagine. Sienna reveals that Matt's real name was Mitchell Bacall, her late husband, a man presumed dead years ago in Europe. The shock hits Nick like a sledgehammer. This wasn't just a random criminal infiltrating their lives. This was Sienna's husband, the same man she claimed had disappeared in a tragic accident. She confesses that she discovered the truth weeks ago but stayed silent out of fear. "He threatened to expose me, Nick," she sobs. "Everything I ever did. Everything I was hiding, he said he'd tell you all." The second secret is even more damning, and it's the one that makes Nick's scream echo through the basement again. Part fury, part disbelief. "The crash wasn't an accident," Sienna whispers, her eyes filling with tears. The words freeze the air. Nick, still gripping the bloodied banister, turns to her in stunned silence. "Matt Mitchell, he sabotaged the car," she continues, trembling. "He wanted to kill Noah." The basement suddenly feels smaller, suffocating. Nick's mind races back to the night of the wreck. Noah's mangled car, the broken glass, the scent of gasoline, the sirens. "Why?" Nick demands. His voice is hoarse, almost a growl. Sienna's answer nearly brings him to his knees. "Because Noah knew too much. He found one of the files Matt kept on you, on all of you, and Matt said he had to be silenced." Her confession confirms Nick's worst nightmare. The accident that nearly killed his son wasn't fate. It was premeditated murder. His scream echoes again, louder this time, shaking the old pipes above them as Sienna sobs uncontrollably. But Sienna isn't finished, not even close. She steadies herself, wipes the tears from her trembling hands, and admits the third secret. "I knew about the recordings," she says softly, her voice nearly drowned out by the dripping pipes. Nick stares at her blankly until she explains. "Matt recorded everything that happened in this basement. Every argument. Every meeting. Every secret that was whispered down here. He had it all on file." When Nick realizes that the man who haunted Sienna's life had also been spying on the Newmans, his stomach turns in disgust. "There are tapes, Nick," she adds, voice breaking. "One of them has your voice. You came down here once, you don't remember, do you? You were furious about Victoria. About the deal she made behind your back. He used that. He said if I didn't cooperate he'd release it. Make it sound like you were part of something illegal." Nick loses the color from his face. He remembers flashes. A night he'd come to confront Sienna after hours, maybe after one too many drinks, but he'd blacked most of it out. Now the idea that there's a recording of him distorted and weaponized makes his blood run cold. By the time Sienna gets to the fourth secret, the room feels heavier, like the air itself is pressing down on them. "The money, the Bacall fund, it was never real," she confesses, her tone flattening as though the admission itself is a relief. Nick blinks, confused. "What are you discussing?" he demands. Sienna's eyes glisten under the flickering light as she explains that the so-called Bacall fund, the investment Matt and she had used to lure in high-profile backers, including one of Victor's overseas contacts, was a front. A scheme to launder money that uses shell companies connected to international arms deals to move millions of dollars. Matt told me it was all cleaned up, she whispers. That he'd gone legit. But it was all a lie. Every dollar, every project, it was blood money. She takes a deep breath and looks directly at Nick. And you, Nick, your company's expansion into London? It was financed with that same money. The words came crashing down like thunder. Nick's heart slams against his chest as the realization hits him. His hands aren't clean. Without knowing it, he's been funding Newman Media's expansion with dirty money tied to the Bakal's criminal empire. His screams this time are primal, the sound of a man realizing his legacy, his family's name is tainted. Sienna's final secret comes not as a whisper, but as a confession screamed through tears. I did not merely lie about the money. I lied about the baby. The words freeze Nick in place. What baby? He rasps, though part of him already knows. Her lips tremble as she answers. The one I told you wasn't yours. The world seems to tilt. The basement goes silent except for the faint hum of the furnace. You said you swore. Nick starts, but Sienna interrupts, sobbing uncontrollably. I lied because Matt told me to. He said if I told you the truth, he'd make sure the baby never made it. I had to protect it, Nick. I had to protect you. The raw anguish in her voice slices through the suffocating silence. The truth is out now, the fifth and most devastating secret. The baby Sienna claimed was fathered by someone else was actually Nick's. Every denial, every tearful lie, was part of a twisted scheme orchestrated by Matt to destroy Nick piece by piece. Nick's breathing turns ragged as the full scope of her confession settles over him. The man he once trusted, the woman he thought he understood, the family he thought he was protecting. All of it feels poisoned. He steps closer to her, his hands trembling, torn between fury and heartbreak. You could have told me, he says, his voice low and cracking. You could have stopped all of this. Sienna shakes her head, collapsing against the wall. I tried, Nick. I tried so many times, but Matt was always watching. He said if I opened my mouth, he'd come for Noah next. The mention of Noah's name snaps Nick back into motion. He clenches his fists and storms toward the far side of the basement, kicking over a metal chair as his scream echoes again. The sound of a man consumed by grief, rage, and the unbearable truth that everything he thought he knew was a lie. As he catches his breath, Sienna continues, her words fragmented, desperate, as though speaking them aloud is her only chance at redemption. She admits that Matt's death wasn't the accident everyone assumes. He didn't just fall, Nick. He came down here last night after threatening to burn everything. The tapes, the files, the evidence, and I tried to stop him. There was a struggle. Nick's gaze darkens. You're saying you killed him? He demands. Sienna shakes her head violently. No. I pushed him, but he slipped. I swear it wasn't on purpose. Her voice cracks as she insists it was self-defense, that Matt's final words were a promise that none of them would survive this truth. But Nick isn't sure what to believe anymore. His screams fade into silence, replaced by the haunting creak of the floorboards above. Maybe the police, maybe someone else who heard the chaos below. The hours that follow are a blur of flashing lights, sirens, and investigators combing through the basement's dark corners. Sienna sits on the cold ground, staring blankly at the wall while Nick stands nearby, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Every secret she revealed now lingers in the air like smoke. Impossible to ignore, impossible to undo. The detectives find the tape Sienna mentioned, along with documents linking the Bakal fund to offshore accounts and fraudulent shell companies. But what shocks them most is a file labeled Project Genesis. Inside are photographs, medical records, and a DNA report that seemed to tie directly to the baby Sienna lost months ago. When Nick glimpses his own name printed on the file, the breath leaves his lungs. It's the final confirmation he didn't want but already knew deep down. Sienna's fifth secret was true. Later, when the house finally empties and the flashing lights fade into the distance, Nick returns to the basement alone. The faint smell of oil and blood lingers in the air, along with the ghostly echoes of Sienna's voice. He stares at the spot where Matt's body once lay and feels a chill crawl up his spine. The darkness down there feels alive, as if the walls themselves remember every scream, every lie, every secret that was buried beneath the floorboards. His reflection in the basement window looks haunted, almost unrecognizable. For years, Nick Newman has been a man defined by his sense of justice, his fierce loyalty to family. But tonight something inside him changes. The scream that once tore from his throat now simmers quietly beneath the surface, a silent vow for vengeance, not just for what Matt did, but for the lies that cost him his peace, his trust, and maybe even the child he never got to hold. Sienna is sitting by herself upstairs, staring at her shaking hands. Every secret she's carried has now been laid bare. But the relief she expected never comes. Instead, she feels hollow, as though the truth has carved something out of her she'll never get back. She can still hear Nick's screams echoing in her mind, can still see the look of betrayal in his eyes. "It's over," she whispers to herself, though deep down she knows it's not. Because in Genoa City, nothing ever stays buried, not even in the basement. And as dawn creeps over the Bacall estate, the foundation of everything begins to crack. The tapes, the fund, the lies, they're all evidence now, but the fallout is only beginning. Sienna's 5 secrets have set off a chain reaction that will ripple through the Newmans, the Abbotts, and beyond. For Nick, the basement will forever be a reminder, not just of the night he screamed, but of the moment everything he believed in came crashing down. The echoes of that scream will haunt him for a long time, but somewhere within the pain, there's a flicker of resolve. He will find the rest of the truth, no matter what it costs. And when he does, Genoa City will never be the same again. The night after the chaos in the Bacall basement, Genoa City feels strangely still, as if the whole town senses that something dark has shifted beneath its surface. At the Newman Ranch, Victor sits in his study, cigar untouched, staring at a manila folder that Michael Baldwin just delivered. The contents are enough to make even the mustache pause. Photos, banking ledgers, digital transfers tied to the Bacall fund, and in the center Nick's name attached to several offshore accounts that he never authorized. He didn't know, Michael assures him quietly, but Victor doesn't answer right away. His expression is unreadable, a storm brewing behind his eyes. He finally mutters, "My son has walked into the devil's trap." Meanwhile, at the Abbott guest house, Sienna sits alone on the edge of a borrowed bed. Her eyes are swollen from crying, her voice hoarse from hours of interrogation. The police have released her for now, pending further investigation. But she knows they don't believe her story about Matt's fall. Not entirely. Detective Chance Chancellor had looked her straight in the eyes and said, "If you're lying about how he died, Sienna, I'll find out." She wanted to scream that she wasn't lying, that she'd spent months terrified, trapped in a nightmare of Matt's making. But the words had crumbled in her throat. Now, with Matt gone and Nick avoiding her calls, all she has left is silence and guilt. Down the street, Nick paces the dark halls of his house. The air feels heavy, filled with echoes of everything Sienna confessed. Every time he closes his eyes, he sees Matt's lifeless face, the flicker of the basement light, the trembling of Sienna's hands as she spoke those 5 words. "I can't hide it anymore." Each revelation gnaws at him, the fake name, the sabotage, the tapes, the dirty money, the baby. Especially the baby. It's almost impossible to bear the thought that he might have had another child. A life taken from him before it even started. He slams his hand against the wall, fighting the urge to scream again. His knuckles bleed, but the pain feels like the only thing keeping him grounded. He flashes back to that night, to the sound of his own voice echoing off concrete, to the sight of Sienna's tear-streaked face. "Why didn't you tell me?" he'd shouted. And she had answered, "Because I didn't think you'd forgive me." That line replays in his mind on a loop, a cruel melody he can't turn off. Forgiveness. It's something Nick has given to so many people, to Sharon, to Phyllis, even to Victor when his father's manipulations crossed every line. But with Sienna it feels impossible. She didn't just lie. She let him believe his son's accident was random. She let him grieve a baby he didn't even know was his. And for what? To safeguard herself? To protect him? The next morning the doorbell rings. When Nick opens the door, he finds Victoria standing there, her face pale, her eyes rimmed with worry. "Dad told me everything," she says softly. Nick barely meets her gaze. "Then you know I'm up to my neck in this mess." She steps inside, glancing around at the chaos, the scattered papers, the untouched coffee, the broken glass on the floor. "You didn't know about the money," she insists. "Sienna and Matt set this up." Nick laughs bitterly. Yeah, well, ignorance doesn't wash the blood off my hands, does it? Victoria moves closer, lowering her voice. Look, Michael's already talking to the feds. They're freezing accounts and tracking the transfers. But there's more. Nick looks up sharply. More. Victoria hesitates, then slides a folded document across the table. It's about the tapes. Nick's stomach drops. He unfolds the paper and reads the header. Audio file transcripts, Bacall Estate basement. Below it, a date nearly 3 months ago, and a single line that makes his blood run cold. Nick Newman discusses potential cover-up. His eyes widen. This is a lie, he breathes. Victoria nods. We know. Matt spliced it. Michael says it's been edited heavily, but it's already out there. Nick stares at her in disbelief. Over there? What do you mean out there? Victoria takes a big swallow. It was leaked to a journalist by someone. They are threatening to make it available online. The room spins. His chest tightens, breath quickening. No, he mutters. Not now. Not after everything. He picks up his phone and tries to reach Michael, but the call goes right to voicemail. He leaves a frantic message before throwing the phone down. He's gone, Vic. Matt's dead, and he's still destroying me. Across town at Crimson Lights, Sharon senses something is wrong the moment she spots Noah sitting alone, staring into his untouched coffee. He looks haunted. You should be resting, she says gently, sliding into the seat across from him. Mom, I can't rest. Noah replies, voice barely above a whisper. I keep hearing it, Dad screaming. I heard it through the vents that night. I didn't know what was happening, but I heard it. Sharon's eyes relax. Your father's been through a lot, she begins, but Noah interrupts. No, you don't understand. I heard Sienna too. She mentioned the baby and how Matt made her lie in something she said. Is it true, Mom? Did Dad really have another kid? The question hits Sharon like a gut punch. She knows it's not her place to confirm or deny. That's Nick's truth to tell. But she also knows Noah's been drowning in guilt since the crash. Your father will tell you when he's ready, she says softly, reaching for his hand. But Noah pulls away. He's not ready, Mom. He's broken. Later that afternoon at the Genoa City Police Department, Chance reviews the evidence spread across his desk. The case file on Matt Clark, or rather Mitchell Bacall, reads like a psychological thriller. Identity theft, corporate fraud, offshore laundering, and suspected homicide. But what catches his eye are the handwritten notes Sienna had scrawled on the back of an envelope. He said Project Genesis would end it all. Chance frowns, flipping through the attached files. There's no record of Project Genesis anywhere. No financial trail, no official documentation. It's as if the entire thing was erased. He leans back, muttering, What the hell were you up to, Mitchell? Meanwhile, Sienna receives an anonymous message on her phone. You think Matt's gone? Think again. Her hands shake as she reads it over and over. Her mind spins. Could Matt still be alive? No, she saw his body. She saw the paramedics cover him. However, an unmistakably grainy photo follows the message. It shows a shadowy figure walking through an alley in London, wearing Matt's old jacket. Her breath is caught. No, she whispers. But deep down she knows. In the world Matt built, nothing was ever as it seemed. That night, Sienna makes a decision. She drives to Nick's house, ignoring the pit in her stomach. When he opens the door, his expression hardens immediately. What are you doing here? He demands. I need to show you something, she says, holding up her phone. He hesitates but lets her in. She shows him the message, the photo. Nick looks back at her after staring at it. Do you believe he is alive? She nods shakily. I don't know. However, in the event that he is, everything I said down there, all 5 secrets, are only the beginning. Nick rubs a hand over his face. You have to tell me everything, Sienna. No more half-truths. What else are you hiding? She hesitates, eyes darting to the window as though expecting someone to be watching. Project Genesis, she finally says. It's not what you think. It wasn't about money. It was about people. Nick frowns. People. She nods. Matt was working with someone, a man named Rafe Denning. They were building something, an operation that involved identity manipulation, data collection, and something called genetic mapping. Matt told me they could recreate anyone. Their DNA, their fingerprints, even their voice. Nick stares at her, horrified. You're telling me they were cloning people? Sienna's eyes glisten with tears. Not cloning, replacing. Matt said the world was built on lies, and he was just giving it new faces. Nick's skin cries at the words. Suddenly the audio leaks, the money laundering, the false identities, they all start to connect in a terrifying way. If Matt had been using this Project Genesis to create false versions of people, what else had he done before his so-called death? Who else might be out there wearing someone else's name? The following day, Victor meets with Michael and Chance in secret at Society. We need to contain this, Victor says sharply. If this Project Genesis is real, we are dealing with a national threat, not just a simple fraud case. Chance nods grimly. I agree. But if Matt's still alive, he's already 10 steps ahead of us. Michael leans forward. And if he's not, someone else is using his game to keep control. That message Sienna received proves it. Nick is once more standing in the Bacall basement's wreckage at that exact instant. He's come back to face his demons, to find something he missed. The air is cold, the faint smell of decay clinging to the concrete. He shines a flashlight along the wall, tracing the cracks until he notices a loose panel behind the furnace. Pulling it free, he finds a hidden compartment, and inside it, a small flash drive labeled Genesis, File 07. His pulse races. He pockets it and hurries upstairs. Back at his house, Nick plugs the flash drive into his laptop. A series of encrypted files appear, one labeled Prototype, and in. His heart skips. He opens it, and what he sees makes his blood run cold. It's a digital profile, his profile, complete with biometrics, DNA sequence, and an audio file that says, Subject ready for replication. He slams the laptop shut, his hands trembling. Oh my God, he mutters. Matt wasn't just targeting him financially, he was targeting his identity. Sienna bursts through the door moments later, breathless. Nick, I got another message, she gasps. It said, Genesis lives through you. Nick looks up, fear and fury warring in his eyes. They're not just coming for me anymore, he says darkly. They're coming for everyone. By nightfall, the storm outside matches the chaos brewing inside the Newman mansion. Victor gathers the family, Nikki, Victoria, Adam and Nick around the table. We are under attack, he declares. Someone wants to destroy this family from the inside out. Adam grins. And let me guess, it's another one of Nick's exes dragging us down? But his sarcasm fades when Nick slams the flash drive onto the table. This isn't about Sienna, he says. It's about all of us. He explains everything, the recordings, the fake fund, Project Genesis, the file with his DNA. The room goes silent. Nikki covers her mouth, horrified. Victor leans forward, his expression darkening. Then we'll find whoever's behind this, he growls. And when we do, they'll wish they'd never heard the name Newman. But as the family debates their next move, the lights flicker. The house goes dark. From the speakers hidden throughout the mansion, a distorted voice plays, familiar yet warped. You thought the basement was the end, Nick. But it was only the beginning. Nikki gasps. Victoria clutches her father's arm. Nick? Nick freezes. Because the voice isn't just familiar. It's Matt's. Or rather Mitchell Bacall's, the man who was supposed to be dead. In that instant, Nick realizes the horrifying truth. Sienna's 5 secrets were never the end of the story. They were the prologue. Matt's death wasn't a conclusion, it was an illusion. Somewhere out there, someone, maybe Matt himself, maybe his replacement, is pulling strings again. The basement, the lies, the scream, they were all part of a much larger game. As thunder crashes outside and the lights flicker back on, Nick turns to his family. His eyes are cold now, determined. He's not done, he says quietly. And neither am I. And as the storm rages over Genoa City, one thing becomes terrifyingly clear. The echoes of Nick's scream were not cries of defeat, they were the sound of a war beginning. Because Matt's death was only one chapter, and Sienna's 5 secrets were just the first 5 keys to unlocking a conspiracy that could destroy them all. In the shadows beyond the estate, a figure watches from a car. A man with Matt's face, a scar along his jaw, and eyes that burn with vengeance. He lights a cigarette and mutters, "Let's see how loud he screams next time." Then he drives off into the storm.